Hello, students. This is Iram from Alamkul, and today we will be learning about the chapter of class 10th. Topic is your alloy and the purification methods of metals. So, first, we will be discussing about alloy. So, what is alloys? So, here it's written the homogeneous mixture of two or more metals or a metal and a non-metal. So, homogeneous is what? It's a Alloy is what? It is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals or one metal and the another one is a non-metal. Okay. So for example, the brass is an alloy of copper and zinc. So here your copper is metal and zinc is also a metal. So with this example, with the brass example, it is satisfying your first property that two or more metals. And the another example is steel is an alloy of iron and carbon. Iron is your metal and carbon is your non-metal. So with this steel, it is satisfying your second property, means a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals. So these are two or more metals and one metal or another, it's a non-metal. So first we will be discussing that what is a homogeneous mixture. So let me take one example. Let's say this is a beaker, and in this beaker, it's containing 1000 ml of water. And what I did, I mixed salt of which is of 500 grams. ठीक है, एक बीकर है जिसमें इतने पानी है और हमने मिक्स करा 500 gram of salt. So now what we will do, we will shake it well. So all your 500 gram of salt dissolved in your 1000 ml of beaker. So here, what will happen? If 1000 ml of beaker is containing this much dissolved salt, 500 gram salt, so what about the 1 ml? So 1 ml will be 500 divided by 1000, which is about 0.5 gram salt. Means this much beaker is containing 0.5 gram salts. It means if I'm taking salt from this side, the upper side, or from the lower side, or from the corner, or from anywhere, so the amount of salt will be 0.5 gram only. It is fixed. Okay. So this is what? This is your salt plus water, which is your salt solution. Now, if I will mix sand and water in the same beaker, so what will happen? The amount of sand in this place, let's say, or in the corner, or in the side one, so the amount of salt will differ. Why? Because salt is having the property of a heterogeneous mixture. It is not dissolving in the water, and your oil and water is also your heterogeneous mixture. ठीक है, so heterogeneous mixture समझ में आ गया. इसका क्या मतलब है कि अगर सॉल्ट, अगर कोई भी बीकर में अगर कोई भी चीज अच्छी तरीके से डिसॉल्व हो रही है तो उसको बोलते हैं homogeneous mixture. If the thing is, if the sand or any other material which is not dissolving in the water properly, so it's a heterogeneous mixture. Now, what is amalgam? What is this thing? Amalgam. So, an amalgam is an alloy of mercury and one or more metals. So, amalgam is not, is what? It is an alloy of a mercury of one or more metal. Let's take zinc, which is a metal, and if I'm mixing the zinc with a mercury, so it's becoming a zinc amalgam. Another example of a copper, if mixing this copper with a mercury, so it becomes what? Copper amalgam. It means any metal which is mixed with your mercury, which is Hg, it will become that metal and amalgam. Like aluminium plus your mercury, it will become aluminium amalgam. Okay, so amalgam is an alloy of a mercury. Mercury should be included because mercury is the main thing. It's an alloy of mercury, so mercury should be there with any metals to become that amalgam, to become that particular metal amalgam. Okay, so now we will discuss that what all are the properties of your alloy. So properties क्या होती है? First point is that they are harder than their constituent but less than ductile and malleable. They are what? They are harder than the constituent but less than ductile and malleable. What is malleable? That the it can be beaten into sheets, and ductile it can be drawn into wires. So this is harder but not that much compared to your ductile and malleable thing. Second, which is resistant to corrosion. So this is a very good property of alloy, which is resistant to corrosion. Third property is your melting point of alloy may be higher or it may be lower than any of its constituents. Melting point, it can be high or it can be low. The fourth property is the property of an alloy are much more improved and pronounced than those its constituents. So here we will take one example. Let's take aluminium metal. So aluminium is a light metal and it is not very strong. ठीक है, aluminium क्या है, बहुत हल्का metal है ना, it is not that much strong. But your duralumin, which is an alloy of aluminium that is light but it's very strong. Why it is very strong? Because it contained the property of your alloy. So if any metal is containing the property of alloy, so that will be very strong and that will be having like more improved and pronounced property. Okay, so here if the alone aluminum is there, so it is light, but it is not very strong. But if I'm containing the alloy of this aluminum in this duralumin, so what is happening? It is light as the same as the previous one, but it's become very strong. Why? Because it is having this alloy property. Because if alloy property is added, then it will be more improved. Fifth point. Fifth is that color is different from the metals from which it is formed. So here, the silver and zinc are almost white, but in the alloy form they are pink in color. So here also the property changes. Firstly, the silver and zinc are in a white color, but if this thing is mixing with the alloy, they are changing its color, which is pink. So these are the property. So here we discuss that what is alloy. Alloy means the homogeneous mixture of two or more metals or a metal and a non-metal. Okay, two metals, two or more metals, and one your metal, and then it can be your non-metal as well. And what is a homogeneous mixture? Homogeneous mixture means if this is a beaker and if I'm dissolving the salt in that beaker, so what is happening? It should dissolve. And if I took the, let's say, if I'm taking the salt from any part of the beaker, so it will be having the same property. But if I'm dissolving the sand over here, so it will be not in that same property as your salt, because salt solution is your homogeneous mixture. Homogeneous मतलब होता है जो कि homo मतलब same means जो same amount में dissolve हो जाए, that is your homogeneous. Hetero means which is not dissolving in that, the means वो same amount में it's not dissolving, so that's a hetero, which where that's your sand and water or oil and water. तो oil and water if you are mixing तो अच्छे से visible होगा that oil is there in your top, and if you are mixing the sand, so it will be clearly visible that sand is there in at your bottom. And what is amalgam? Amalgam means it's an alloy of mercury of one or more metals. So here we have to include the mercury with any of the metals, so that thing will become your particular metal and plus your amalgam. Okay? So here mercury is must, you have to include this. Lastly, we discussed that what are the properties of alloy. So first property was that they are harder, but less harder than your ductile and the malleable thing. It is resistant to corrosion, which is a very good property. Melting point of alloy, it may be higher or it may be lower. Fourth property was that here if I'm mixing alloy of that particular of that particular metal, then what is happening, it's becoming very strong. It is light but it's very strong, so the property is more improved and more pronounced. Fifth point is what, that color also changes if we mixed the metals with the alloy. So here the silver and the zinc was having firstly the white color, but here if we mixed but the alloy formed from them, so that means the alloy which is formed, that's pink in color. So here इतना समझ में आ गया होगा, I guess. Alloy part done. Now the purification method of metals पढ़ा जाए. What is purification of metal? So the purification of metals जो है वो होता है किस चीज से? Electrolytic refining से. Now what is the electrolytic refining? So what's a electrolytic refining? So firstly we will discuss this. ये बहुत simple है, एक theory, simple theory. Let me choose this. Okay, yellow color. Now the sky blue one. Okay, so here the electro refining is based on the principle of electrolysis. Electrolytic refining कौन से principle पर based होता है? It is based on your electrolysis. ठीक है. Next, copper obtained from metallurgy to make a copper wire. Copper which is obtained from your metallurgy to make what? To make a simple copper wire. But the copper which is obtained that was not so pure to make a wire. तो मान लो copper metallurgy से जो भी हमें obtained हुई है वो that if the copper is not that much pure to make a wire, so what will happen? So with this case, it will the loss of electricity will be there, because to make the copper uh, in a wire, so the copper should be very pure. ठीक है, इसका क्या मतलब है कि कॉपर जो हमें ऑब्टेन्ड हो रहा है मेटलर्जी से एक कॉपर वायर बनाने के लिए, लेकिन अगर कॉपर जो हमें ऑब्टेन्ड हो रहा है वो उतना प्योर नहीं है कोई भी एक वायर बनाने के लिए, तो उसका क्या मतलब होगा कि इट विल लॉस ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी विल बी वेरी हाई, and to make the wire very pure, your the metal should also be very, to make a wire, so the metal should also be a very pure. ठीक है, यहाँ पे लिखा but the copper which is obtained that was not so pure to make a wire. So the copper should be very pure to make a wire. If it is not, then the loss of electricity will be there. Now we will learn this beaker. So here, what is this beaker? So you can see these two are electrodes, this one and this one. ये क्या, ये दो electrodes हैं. And here one is your anode, which is your positive side. Another is your cathode, which is your negative side. This is your negative. Okay, so ये positive है, which is your anode. So you have to learn this. Okay, if positive, the anode which is positive is always a impure metal, and the cathode which is a negative is always a pure metal. Here you can see it's the orangish very thin strip of pure metal is there. It means in the anode part side there are impure metals, and in the cathode part side there are pure metals, and these two are electrodes which is dipped in your solution of electrolyte, which is a salt solution of some metal. Here Cu is there, so it means this is a salt solution of your copper metal. Now here what is happening, that in this anode metal, all the impure in this anode rod, all your impure metals, it get deposited to your कैथोड साइड. क्या होगा, यहाँ से जो भी चीजें होंगी वो यहाँ पर जो है कैथोड में इट विल बी डिपॉजिट है. ठीक है, यहाँ से वो क्रैक होकर टूट कर जो है वो यहाँ पर कॉपर में सारी डिपॉजिट हो जाएंगी. And what will happen? The impure is divided into two types. The impure is divided into two types. First is your soluble, and the second one is your insoluble. Soluble means which is mixed with your solution, and insoluble means that it is collected somewhere. Now here, the soluble part is mixed with your this salt solution of your some of your this copper metal. But the impure one, see here, this is your impure one. It's written now, it's anode mud which is insoluble. So this is insoluble, और ये mud और ये beaker के the bottom part में ये जो है क्या हो गई, collect हो गई है. So if the insoluble अगर insoluble रहेगा, so it will be collected at somewhere, and the soluble will be mixed in this solution. Now we will take one example and we will learn this theory. So here I am taking copper as an example. So you already know anode, which is a impure side. Anode is having a impure, anode is having impure metal, and pure is having, cathode is having a thin strip of your pure metal. We already discussed here. So anode, which is an impure, your copper rod, and cathode, which is a thin strip of your copper. And electrolyte, here I am taking electrolyte, your copper sulfate, and diluted H2SO4. Why I am taking diluted H2SO4? Because it's a good electrolyte, and it also help to furnish the iron. That's why I'm taking diluted H2SO. Now, so here also I made a diagram. This is a beaker. This is your electrode, like this. These are two electrodes. So here, this part is your anode part, this part, and this part is your cathode part. So anode part will having your positive side, and the cathode will have your negative side. And the cathode is having the impure metal, and the sorry anode is having the impure and the cathode is having strip of a pure metal. So अब क्या होगा कि in the anode side, if the reaction will happen, then the copper will be, then what will happen? Copper जो होगा वो हो जाएगा Cu2 plus 2 electron minus, means the copper is there which is in your rod, it will be get distributed in the solution which is your Cu2 plus, and the 2 electron minus will be there in your anode only. Now what will happen? Anode जो है वो क्या होगा? So this part is connected with your DC current battery. Now anode will go from your this anode rod, it will come to your cathode rod. Okay, because the battery is connected, so the flow of electrons will take place. So 2 electron minus anode में से it will go from the anode to the cathode. तो यहाँ पर in this electrode you are saying कि यहाँ पर 2 electron minus आ गया. Now what will happen in your solution? See here, in your solution, your Cu2 plus is there. So the Cu2 plus will get attracted to your cathode. This is your cathode. So yeah, this is your cathode. So Cu2 plus will get attracted to your cathode. Why? Because it's containing two electron minus and the positive and negative charges attracts each other. So Cu2 plus will get attracted to your two electron minus, and the cathode reaction will be Cu2 plus, which is there in your solution, 2 electron minus, the thing which is he is attracted to the 2 electron minus, so it will give you the copper, which is your deposit cathode. Okay, understood? First, this is the principle of electrolysis, the copper which is obtained from metallurgy to make a copper wire. But if the copper wire which is obtained, if it's not that much pure to make a wire, so the loss of electricity will be there. To make a wire, the copper should be very pure. Here, these are two electrodes. The anode part is having the impure metal, cathode part is having a your like the thin strip of your pure metal. Anode is positive, cathode is negative. This whole solution is your salt solution of copper Cu2 plus. Here, the anode part side, I don't know if from the anode part side, your the impure metal will get deposited on your this cathode electrode. So here you already added key from here. This is your anode side. So here all the things are getting deposited to your cathode side. Your two electron minus as well. Your Cu2 plus also. So here your everything will get crack or वो टूट जाएगा and it will be get deposited here. The impure is divided into two types: soluble, insoluble. Soluble means which is like getting dissolved in your the salt solution, and the insoluble, this is your insoluble one, the impurities which is called as mud. क्योंकि mud क्या होता है वो नीचे जो है वो जम जाता है, so that's a mud. So here we took example of the copper anode, which is an impure cathode, which is having a thin strip of your copper. Electrolyte, I'm taking this thing H2SO4. Why? Because it's a good electrolyte and it helps to furnish the iron. And here this is your anode. Here this is your anode, and here okay, here this is your anode, and here this is your cathode. Anode is having the positive, cathode negative, impure metal. So here the reaction will be Cu2 plus, which will get mixed with your the solution, and two electron minus is there. So if we will apply a DC battery, direct current battery, so two electron minus will will transfer to your cathode side. So here the two electron minus got transferred. Now what will happen? The Cu2 plus will get attracted towards your two electron minus because of the positive negative charges. They repel each other, sorry, they attracts each other. Now here in the cathode reaction, it will be your salt solution, your this thing, and your copper deposit cathode. It means everything टूट कर या फिर crack होकर everything is deposited to your finally cathode side. So that's it. So that's a whole process of purification of a metal. So that's it for today. Alloy we discussed, and we discussed that how to purify a metal with the help of a electrolytic refining. ठीक है? So if any doubt, comment करके पूछ सकते हो, and like and subscribe करना don't forget. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.